Getting inclusion right matters. According to Deloitte, inclusive teams are 35% more productive, and according to McKinsey, they are 27% more likely to outperform their peers. So you see, inclusion matters. Let's talk about inclusion from the perspective of belonging and uniqueness. Now, we can think of it as a 4-part framework. The first part of the framework is called assimilation. And assimilation is when the focus is on having an individual adjust their behaviors, their dress, their ways of being to fit into a larger mold. So you can belong, but only if you're willing to erase what makes you unique in order to belong. So it comes at a cost, and it's known often as practices such as code switching, where you are giving up a part of who you are to fit in and to not stand out. The Harvard Business Review has shown that 61% of employees tend to hide parts of who they are and their identity in order to assimilate at work. So you can imagine that people come to work, they feel accepted, but they don't feel like they belong. And that is not inclusion. Differentiation, on the other hand, values diversity, but not with real inclusion. People feel that they are seen for being different, but they're not included into the group, and they're often kept at a distance for being different. And so it's really difficult because you have a low sense of belonging and a high sense of being unique, but it almost feels like it's working against you and creating a barrier between you and others. This often takes the form of tokenism, where people feel disengaged and isolated even though they're in diverse workplaces. And we know from Catalyst that 40% of employees who have worked in diverse workplaces said that even though they're diverse, they tend to feel isolated because there's no real sense of inclusion. So that doesn't work for us either. The third category is exclusion, and exclusion is where there is no sense of belonging in a group and there's no sense of being valued for what makes you unique and diverse. And so people tend to be really disengaged. They tend to feel really disconnected from the organization and the people they're working with, and they're literally just showing up to do a job without feeling like there's any investment in who they are or any investment back in the organization. In a case where individuals and groups of people experience exclusion to high degrees within an organization, the number one factor that is impeding inclusion is a lack of psychological safety. The inability to speak, to express yourself, to be who you are, the lack of safety to show up and contribute because you're worried about repercussions, all of this shuts people down and creates a toxic workplace, which is not helpful. True inclusion is where people feel safe to be part of a group and also safe to be themselves. And this leads to higher innovation, higher retention, and higher profitability because everybody is bringing their full selves to work. They're celebrated, they're valued, they're contributing, and it's a wonderful experience to work at this organization. According to Josh Burstein, inclusive companies are 1.7 times more likely to be innovative leaders in their own sectors. So they outperform other organizations. And a key part to that is their ability to create inclusive work environments that help people feel they belong to a group, and they're also distinctly unique and able to bring who they are to work and be recognized and valued for that. Remember that inclusion is at the intersection of belonging and uniqueness coming together. It is not about fitting into an organization. It is about being able to stand out and feel safe and still be connected to a group of people who have shared values, shared practices, shared ways of being. So you're not compromising either. You're getting the best of both worlds, and that enables you to feel included and to be your best version at work. In summary, inclusion is belonging plus uniqueness. And if we get this right, everybody wins. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you would like to learn more about DEI topics, about workplace inclusion, inclusive leadership, and so much more, please connect with me. I would love to deliver some of these sessions at your workplace and help you build capacity to create inclusive workplaces for all of us.